My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about how to rise above a difficult past. So we're going to do two things here. I compiled only 4 questions. I could have compiled a lot more, but we're going to just take 4. And these 4 questions are from a lot of clients that I've had over the years who have had difficulty moving past their traumas. And so I'm going to take these 4 questions. Let's go over those now. So question number 1. Why do I hold on to my negativity? Number 2, how can I value myself when others don't value me? Number 3, how can I feel good about myself when others treat me bad or they walk out of my life? And number 4, when I don't let other people abuse or take advantage of me, they usually leave. So those are the 4 questions. We're going to go back over that again. What I want to compare that to is a story about a dog that I've been seeing for about a month at the gym. So here's the story. So I walk into this gym and the dog walks up to greet me. And of course, this dog comes out and greets everybody who comes into the gym. Very well mannered, and he has, or she has her own bed right behind the front desk. And she sleeps there. She's very calm, she's very well behaved, and she gets petted by pretty much everybody who walks into the gym. She loves being there, she loves people, and I guess you could say she's living her best life. And I don't know, she probably weighs, maybe 30 pounds, but she's a puppy, so she's very young. Okay, that's the first part. Here's the second part to the story. This dog was a rescue. There was somebody at the gym, probably the manager, who found her on the street. When they found her on the street, she was shaking, she was scared, she was skin and bone, she wasn't fed, she was probably abused, she was neglected. Where was she found? Well, I live in Las Vegas. She was found in an area of Las Vegas called the Naked City. Not to put anybody down or anything like that, but it's probably the worst area of town. It's riddled with crime, drugs, abuse of every kind. You name it, it's there. It's not a place you really want to go to. This is where this dog was found, or trying to leave, I don't know, something to that effect. So why am I bringing this up? Well, it seems like this dog that has come from a very horrible background, abused, not fed, neglected. The people around it, I'm sure they weren't of the most responsible type, obviously. Within 1 or 2 days, this dog is happy. It's greeting everybody who comes in through the door. If you're feeling like you're having a tough workout and you're sitting down or you got your head down, this dog will come over to try to cheer you up. I mean, it's just perfection in action here when you're watching an animal be able to rise above its difficult past. So of course, I have to ask the question, what is wrong with human beings that they could be 40 years old and they'll complain that they didn't get an extra ice cream cone when they were like 4 or 5 years old? And of course, there's a lot worse things than that too. But be that as it may, there's so many people that will complain and they will hold on to their negativity. And what does that do? Well, a pathological focus on negativity leads to depression. And it leads to feeling like a victim, not moving forward. And again, there's no way to be successful if you have a pathological focus on your negativity. So why do people do this? Well, it seems like that it's supposed to be an evolutionary defense where human beings are wired to remember their trauma and negative experiences. And they remember them more than their positive experiences to keep them alive. So how does this work? Well, let's say you have 10 positive experiences, but it's possible that you're going to have, or you have had, 1 negative experience. It could be that the negative experience could be so bad that it could end your life, right? Or put you in such harm that it could create a lot of damage. You can get hurt. You can end up in the hospital, whatever it might be. So it kind of eliminates all of the good stuff. So people eventually, they end up focusing on the negative. That's what the brain typically will try to do. However, does it have to be this way? It does not. The brain reacts more intensely to negative stimuli. That's true. But if you keep doing that and you don't do anything about it, it's only going to become more enhanced. You're going to get better and better at focusing in on the negativity. What needs to be done is these negative thoughts need to be challenged. And we do that by trying to be solution focused and look for silver linings in everything. Now, when we look at this dog, for example, if it could talk, how would it be helpful to this dog if it held on to its negativity? I had a bad past, nobody cared about me, I was left out in the streets. The owners, if I ever actually had one, were drug addicts and violent criminals. What does it mean for that dog? Well, it doesn't mean anything really, except dogs are better at they're like the greatest Buddhists ever because they can live in the present. They don't care about what happened in the past because the past is done and over with. There's nothing to be done about it. They want love and security. They want food. They want affection. And they want it now. And this is what happens. So if people could do that, and they can, because I know there's somebody out there going, oh, that's impossible. No, it's not impossible. Again, there's a poem, and I forget what it is, so I'm not even going to try to recite it in any way. But it makes the point that wild things never feel self-pity. Again, that is something that self-pity comes along because somebody's trying to get external validation from other people about how life is so hard for them. And maybe it was. But when they do that, they're looking for this validation to say, oh, it's so terrible, it is. But they're not looking to move forward, and that's where the problem is. So let's look at the second question. How can I value myself when others don't value me? Well, this might come as a surprise to people, but you're the only one that needs to have value in yourself. You have to stand up for yourself. And I'm not really sure why people are so intent on valuing other people's opinions more than their own. That doesn't actually make sense. Now, from an evolutionary standpoint, when we're with a group of people, again, we're wired for connection to other people. So it might make sense that we do care about the people's opinions, because if we get ostracized in some way, then it could put us as an individual. And back in the day, it was very hard to make it as an individual. However, when we look at that, is it a positive to care about the opinions of other people who don't care about us that much, or who put us in a very bad situation? So at some point, we have to, again, rise above that natural inclination. Here's something else that comes along with that when I'm thinking about if somebody's got that question. How can I value myself if other people don't value me? There's an assumption in there. The assumption is that the other people who are judging me are intelligent. They make good decisions. That should not be a given, because most of the time that's not even true. Here's the thing. Most people are ignorant. And if they're ignorant, they don't recognize value, even if it's right under their nose. I'll give you an example. I don't know a thing about jewelry. So if somebody were to show me a diamond or a cubic zirconia, I don't know the difference. So it's not going to mean much to me. I'm not going to treat the cubic zirconia with a lot more value because I'm ignorant in terms of that. Now, if you're a jeweler, and a jeweler will be able to look at it and be able to go, oh, okay, this has this much value. This doesn't have very much value. So let's say, for example, you're at a pawn shop and you're trying to sell a cubic zirconia to a person who knows what they're talking about. You're not going to get much. But if it's a diamond, they're going to give you more. And it's the same thing here. If you are in a situation, an environment, or in a group of people that are pretty low value human beings that don't know how to make good decisions, why would you care about what they valued? Right? So let's go back to the story about the dog. And again, here's the question. How can I value myself when others don't value me? This dog came from a position where everybody was basically being abused, humans abusing themselves with drugs and alcohol and doing everything else that they do, not treating each other right, being very violent. Pretty low value human beings, or at least we could say behaviors, if I'm not trying to be too judgmental here. If a dog came from that environment, it's like, wow, these people don't take care of me. They don't value me. I must be a bad dog. Well, how would that make sense? You can take a good person or a good dog, have them in a bad environment, and they're just in the wrong environment. This dog, by just instinct maybe, knew that. Or if we say that the dog didn't have the consciousness to know that, we could say the dog at least had the will to survive, the will to do better. Do I see this from human beings? Not so much. I don't see that real will to survive. They'll look at people that are very, very deficient, who have very poor decision-making skills, and they'll say, well, that person didn't value me. But why are you taking their opinion into account? You know, my mom used to say, consider the source. And here, I think that makes perfect sense. Let's go to question number 3. How can I feel good about myself when others treat me bad or walk out of my life? This question's kind of similar, so let's see if we can get a little nuanced here. So number 1, you're not responsible for the actions of other people. So if they treat you bad, it says a lot more about them. Actually, it says everything about them and nothing about you. There's a book called The 4 Agreements. I think it was Don Miguel Ruiz wrote it. I'm not going to go over the 4 of them because it doesn't matter for this show, but one of them is don't take anything personally. That's one of the agreements. The other one is always do your best. So let's take a look at the don't take anything personally. How can I feel good about myself when others treat me bad or walk out of my life? What does that have to do with you? And why should you be wearing that? For example, my parents got divorced when I was about 6 years old. My father walks out of the house. I remember the day that he did that. What does that have to do with me? Like, zero. Like, nothing at all. Zero. I'll give you some other examples that I could think of off the top of my head here. I've dated some girls in the past, and it seemed fun for them in the beginning, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, let's go out on a date, let's have a good time. But if things were moving along a little bit, what might happen is that because I've lived my life as a very athletic, I'm a bodybuilder, a girl after a while, not all, but some, they'll feel very, let's just say they feel uncomfortable sometimes eating around me, right? Because they want to eat candy and popcorn and all this junk that I never get near. And then they look at me and they're like, oh, are you judging me? Like, no, you're judging yourself. I don't care what you eat. I got to do a contest. Like, I eat a certain way. You could eat whatever you want. But a lot of girls can't get past that because then they're always looking in the mirror going, oh, did I gain a pound? Are you okay if I gain a pound? And I'm like, I don't care about any of that. I do bodybuilding as a sport and I do it for a living. There's a big difference. And so, again, there's an assumption that people treat you a certain way based upon the way you are. Like, the better you are, the better you get treated. That's not true. A lot of times when you move up the ladder, you make more money, you look better, you do these things, you get a better education, people can feel uncomfortable around you. I mean, if you're walking around and you're a doctor or you have a bachelor's degree, something to this effect, and somebody else never went through college, they might feel a little inferior around you. So yeah, they might walk out of your life. They might not feel good around you. That's not your fault. And I know this is going to sound harsh of what I'm going to say, but there are people that walk out of your life for certain reasons. They don't necessarily, and it's not going to feel good. I get that. But being that sometimes people leave you because you're actually too good, sometimes the garbage takes itself out. And that's what happens. They will literally say, I can't do this. Think of it like this. It's like if you're at a job, and there are a lot of people like this. They actually like the job that they're at, and they don't want more responsibility, even though it might get them more money. And so they're like, well, I like the more money, but I don't want the extra responsibility. I don't want to have to answer any extra questions. I don't have to want to maybe put in some extra time. I don't actually want to do that. So what they'll say is that they don't want all that. So they'll turn it down. And if it gets too tough for them, they'll just quit. Well, it's not the employer's fault. Sometimes people just don't want to do the work. And that's the way it is in relationships as well. Let's go to the next question. When I don't let other people abuse me or take advantage of me, they usually leave. Well, again, that's hurtful because if you're in a relationship and you're not being authentic to yourself, and so you're bending a lot to make sure that the relationship stays together, then you start saying, well, I can't do this anymore, I need to make some boundaries. Yeah, there's probably a good chance that a certain group of people will not make those changes or go along with what you want, and they will leave. That's true. However, this is a good thing. You want those people to leave because it gives you more space for more good people to come into your life that are much more aligned with you. So let's go through this real quick again. Let's take it from a dog perspective. How can I value myself when others don't value me? Listen, there's plenty of dogs at the shelter that weren't treated well and they have horrible backgrounds. What would happen to them if they held it against whoever mistreated them and they hated all humans and they didn't open themselves up to other people? What would happen is they'd probably stay at the shelter forever. Not every shelter is going to hold a dog forever. So what would happen is they'll probably get euthanized. What happens to human beings? Well, they end up having this spiraling negativity their whole life where they live in anxiety, live in depression. They have a failure to thrive. They don't do well. And they tend to play the victim all the time. And of course, this is not conducive to having a good life. So let's look at this other one. How can I feel good about myself when others treat me bad or walk out of my life? Same type of thing. A dog will not take any of this personally. They look for somebody else where they can be treated well. And again, number 4, when I don't let other people abuse me or take advantage of me, they usually leave. Well, I'm not sure how to do that in terms of a dog, but they do defend themselves, though. In other words, if somebody does go to hit them, they will either run to get away from it or they will bite back. They don't sit there and take it. I guess after a while, if they had to, they would. But for the most part, even if they can't get away, they still would want to defend themselves and they wouldn't lose their soul. They still care enough about themselves that if they were put in a better position, they would take advantage of that. So I think that's all I wanted to say about this, of how to rise above a difficult past. Hopefully some of that was helpful for you. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.